Alright guys, today will be the second video on the new Wolverine SMP HPA engine in Airsoft. I'll probably do about 4 of these total. I already did an overview video, just a quick overview explaining what it is and kind of, I guess, how it works. Today's video will be about what you actually need in order to use your Wolverine SMP. I will also try to do 2 more videos, one on modifications you might have to do, or modifications you do have to do if you want to install special parts that aren't required, and a video on actual usage with everything assembled, testing, and showing you how to tune your unit. So today, let's get started. What you need to actually use your SMP system. The SMP system, for the most part, drops into an existing gearbox shell, so you're going to need a base gun. This is pieces of a base gun, but you get the idea. You're going to need a gun that you're going to drop the SMP into. Secondly, the gun has to have a gearbox in it. Very basic, I know, but you can't go out and buy a boneyard gun that's missing all the insides and drop in the SMP like you would a Polar Star or a V12. The SMP fits into a gearbox shell itself, so the gun you're putting it into needs to have a gearbox already in it. While we're talking about parts you need other than the SMP, I'll continue this trend with the gearbox. You're going to need the safety arm with all its components, the selector plate, which is on the other side of this, you can see it through the hole right there, the trigger board screw from your old trigger contact set, and the gearbox shell itself. Oh, and a trigger. You also need a trigger and trigger spring. Other than that, I believe everything else you can take out of the gearbox and scrap, and the SMP should fit into the empty space. Now, what you get with the SMP unit itself, here's the box, Wolverine SMP. It has version 2 marked on it, version 2 or version 3. You will get the actual unit itself. You will get an M4 air nozzle. This is an ACR air nozzle, but it will come with an M4 air nozzle. You will get a stock line. This is an upgraded wide bore line from Amped Airsoft. You will get a thinner stock line. You will get your buffer tube adapter, which this replaces the spring guide, where you know how you have to screw a buffer tube into the spring guide? Well, you don't need a spring guide with Wolverine SMP, so this is the adapter piece that lets you still lock on your buffer tube. You'll get a cable connecting the solenoid to the trigger board. You will get the trigger board with the micro switch on it. You will get a data cable that runs from the trigger board to a blank end, which connects to your FCU. This is the FCU that comes with the Wolverine SMP. I will do another video later on how to actually use and program that. It's very basic. And this is the battery that plugs into the FCU that does come with the Wolverine SMP. And this is also a tool they give you, is a little flathead screwdriver for adjusting the dwell and rate of fire on the FCU. You also get an instruction manual which shows you how to install it, how to adjust it, how to tune it, and how to get yourself up and running. However, that is all it comes with. It comes with the unit, the trigger board, all the wires, the adapter, tool, FCU, battery. That's it. It does not come with anything else. So you will need to provide your own gearbox shell, your own trigger board screw, or the contact screw. You just reuse that from your old contacts. Your old safety lever mechanism, selector plate, trigger, and trigger spring. Now, that's not it though. This is the unit itself. In order to have air in the unit, you also need to buy an air tank and a regulator. This is the Redline Airsoft Firebase regulator. I bought mine from Amped Airsoft and got an Amped line with it. You don't have to buy it from Amped Airsoft. I just did. This happens to be a Ninja 62 3000 tank. For Airsoft, you don't need the 4500 pressure tanks. Some fill stations actually can't even fill past the 3000 mark, so even if you have a 4500 tank, you might still only get 3000 psi in the tank. So I don't see a point in spending extra money on it when you don't need it in Airsoft. 62, that's just the cubic inch. It's just the size of the air volume inside the tank they can hold. So these two are items you do need to buy separately that do not come with the SMP, and they are required for function with the SMP. Also, what you might have noticed or picked up on is that it comes with a battery. The battery is only used to power the FCU. However, when it dies, the FCU dies. So this needs to be charged in order to work, which means you also need to buy a Lipo battery charger in order for your SMP to work. The battery will come with like a half charge. It should come at storage charge actually, with about 3.85 to 3.7 volts in each cell. However, that doesn't last particularly long. It's a little less than half charge basically. Technically it's dead, but it's right where you want it before it's like pronounced dead and you can't use it anymore. So you will need a Lipo Charger, is what I'm getting at, sorry. And if you already have a Lipo Charger, like I do, that means you will need adapter plugs. You need a JST plug, which is the one in front, and whatever plug you have on your charger already, which mine uses Dean's, so I got a female JST and a female Dean's. I will solder them together to make an adapter plug, and that will allow me to plug this into my Lipo Charger and actually charge the battery. If you do not already have a Lipo Charger, you don't necessarily need these, but you need to buy a Lipo Charger. And when you buy a Lipo Charger, there's different kinds. Some charge via this white cable here. Most don't. More of the mid-level to high-level chargers will not. They will actually charge through the main cable and use this side cable as a balancer to check the cells. However, if you get a cheaper charger, you might have one that actually charges through this side cable, so you don't need these plugs. If you get a more expensive middle-end or high-end charger, like AccuCell 6 or an IMAX B6 or anything, those would be like the baseline, cheaper versions. Anything more expensive than those, you will probably need to buy these adapter plugs as well, because you will need to change the, you will need a JST adapter with 2 leads, and then you will need any plug that's already on the charger that you get so that you can actually use the charger. Once you have your plug issue sorted out and you have the JST adapter with a plug that is compatible with your Lipo Charger, you will be able to plug your battery into your charger. Now, all this is great, and with this setup, you will be able to run your SMP for a while. However, eventually, the O-rings will dry out in your SMP, and you need some lube or grease to lubricate your O-rings. Now, there's different types of lubricant you can use. You can use oil lubricant, which is not necessarily recommended. The TechT Gun Drops is a good oil lubricant. However, the oil lubricant, it doesn't seal as well as a paste or actual grease, and it also does not last as long, so you will be lubing your SMP more often than you really need to. What is recommended you get is a grease or a paste-based lubricant. TechT Gun Sav lube is the recommended paste to buy. It is what I got. It is what almost everyone who buys this gets. It is what's recommended, and it works great. Once you have the lubricant, you won't need to use it right away. The SMP should come with lube when you get it. It should already be greased. However, after a while, you will need to re-grease everything. And by everything, I mean the O-rings inside. There is one O-ring under my finger, another O-ring under my finger, and there are 2 O-rings on this nozzle itself that you will need to constantly re-grease. Now that you have all the pieces to use your SMP and continue to sustain your SMP, you are able to actually go and use it. I made this video because there isn't really a video explaining that you need all these extra pieces and you can't just buy the SMP and go, or buy the SMP and get an air rig and go. You actually do need your previous gearbox components. You need the regulator, tank, and line. You need a Lipo adapter for your Lipo that comes with it so you can actually charge it, and you need the TechT Gun Sav grease. With all these items, you will be fine to run your SMP. There is nothing else you do need concretely. However, there are upgrades you can get that are optional. For example, you can get this amped IGL wide bore line. You can get an amped line here, which is the same concept as just a wide bore line. It allows more air to flow through if needed. You can get a speed trigger. However, this requires a lot of modification to use correctly, and I will go over this in another video. And you can also get different nozzles for your SMP. Unlike the Polar Star and V12, the SMP nozzles do not change FPS. They are strictly to change gun type you want to use the SMP in. For example, my SMP came with a much shorter M4 nozzle, and I have replaced it with an A&K ACR longer nozzle. After all this, you should be all set to use your SMP. If you have any more questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. See you guys.